You have today students of teachers who claim that their teachers are arahats. Even when you look at them not being that person's teacher, that teacher's student, and you have doubts. One thing that comes to mind is cigarette smoking. Now, depending on which bhikkhus you talk to, this is a hush-hush subject. Most bhikkhus don't like to talk about. But remember earlier I said nothing is done in secret. Well, this is a big, fat, huge thorn on the side of the Sangha, and no one talks about this. Recently, I was in Armenia, and I was, because Armenia is not a Buddhist country, not by a long shot, but they have been opening themselves to the Dhamma. I have several students there. And one person invited me to go and give a talk at an Aikido dojo. I was surprised to see all different ages, from 6-year-olds to 76-year-olds, sitting there wanting to listen. Some of them were family members of the practitioners. And the sensei, or the head of this school, wanted to ask questions, penetrating questions about the Dhamma. And because I happen to be ethnically Armenian and I speak the language, it was very curious for them to see a fellow Armenian who was a Buddhist, not only a Buddhist, but a Buddhist monk, teaching them the Dhamma. So I taught them the Panchasila, the 5 precepts. And at the end, they asked questions about, well, what about smoking? And I said, smoking as well, because it has been proven that it has over, in the 80s and 90s, it was proven that it has over 37 different types of narcotics, which give you the addiction towards cigarettes, the nicotine. But now it has even more. 30 years ago, I'm talking. So I mentioned that. And then he started to, not disrespectfully, but he wanted to present an alternative way of looking at it. And I said, I understand what you're saying. And I looked over and I saw a little girl sitting there. Dhammadina, you were there. You saw this. You were a witness. And I pointed at her and I said, excuse me, young lady, what's your name? She said, Rosie. And I said, how old are you? She said, I think she said 6 or 8. And I turned to the sensei. And I said, could you look at her? He looked at her. And I said, can you imagine a cigarette in her mouth? He immediately said, no. I said, what happened? Why can't you visualize a cigarette in her mouth? He said, because that's ugly, that's dirty, it's unacceptable. And I said, do you see the discrepancy in your judgment? So similarly, when a teacher says it's okay to smoke as a bhikkhu, I ask them one thing. Well, if the picture of a child with a cigarette doesn't bother them, I ask them, can you imagine Lord Buddha smoking a cigarette? And if they have any conscience, any decency, they will say, absolutely not, Bhante. Well, if it is wrong for Lord Buddha, why is it right for me to do? That's my answer to these bhikkhus and teachers who keep saying, well, it's. Of course, in the past, there have been ajahns in the 20th and the 19th century who didn't know any better, that there are narcotics, that it is addictive. And it keeps you awake and agitated, and it keeps you skinny. All these things are facts about cigarettes, because it's nicotine. And then you have the betel nut, right? People chew on it. Well, that's another reason why their teeth fall out. So many ajahns you have without teeth. Well, what kind of a look is that? Lord Buddha never chewed any betel nuts. There's not a single evidence of that. And plus, it's ugly. I've seen ajahns, while they're giving a Dhamma talk, they take their spittle and they spit, which is dreadful to look at, uncivilized. Plus, teeth fall out because the gums have been so receding badly. Well, where is the Dhamma there? Tell me. The behavior of the teacher has to be through and through infused with Dhamma. We don't live for anything else. Recently, I gave a talk, and the title of the talk was basically just that. We wear the robes for only one reason: attain freedom from suffering. Give up everything, not defend. Ill behavior.